Welcome to the Boating Business Success Podcast, where we talk about success stories from industry professionals. We talk about expert insights from their experience, and we provide you with exclusive strategies to market and sell boats and to have a more successful boating business. Today, I have Bob Ganzak, whom I call my second father. Bob has basically adopted me here in the United States. He had a time in the marine industry, and now he has transitioned more to coaching and training in communications and leadership. And I'll let Bob talk more about it. But thank you, Bob, for being here. Really appreciate your time and all of the value that you're going to bring us today.
Jose, I'm humbled by that introduction because you mean a lot to me. I really appreciate working with you and being around you so much. It's like, what a nice young man. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Bob. All right, so let's start with just a brief description of your time in the marine industry.
Well, I spent the basic part of 30 years in radio broadcasting, and it took me to La Crosse, Wisconsin back in the mid 80s. And I met a gentleman there that owned, along with his brother and some other investors, one of the top 3, 4, 5 boat retailers in the country. There was a tragedy that took place, and I had been working with him in his marketing. And so I just stepped in and helped him. And when he came back, he asked me if I'd come to work with him. And after some back and forth, I decided to do it. So I spent about 2.5 years in the boating industry, which was absolutely a great experience. Never really understood. I loved boats. I loved being around boats. I owned boats. My dad had a boat. We always went fishing and everything else in Michigan. Yet I really didn't know what the industry was until I kind of dove in head first. So it was interesting. It was interesting and enjoyable.
That's so cool. And what were you doing for that time?
Well, I was vice president and general manager of a company called American Marine, which was based in La Crosse, Wisconsin. But we had Skipper Buds in Milwaukee was our sister company. Mm-hmm. And also we had a company called Skipper Liner that built custom houseboats. That was also a sister company and actually was based out of our American Marine home. So I had a lot of different opportunities to delve into not only the manufacturing side, the retail side, the service side. It was interesting.
So you were managing the whole team and going to all the boat shows.
Oh, the boat shows were that. I think that was what was probably one of the most eye-opening things. Again, we're talking the mid 1980s, so I don't know how things have changed in 2024. I can remember watching the Rose Bowl at my boss's house, Dave's house, and we were getting ready. Like the next day, we were going on the road to, I think, Salt Lake City. I think that was the first boat show we went to. But I didn't really have a day off between then and Mother's Day because we were either at a boat show or in the store or having an event. And he was a marketing genius. I mean, the things we did just brought people to the boating industry, and Dave and his brother Mike were always like thinking 3 steps ahead of everybody else, and that was really neat to see that. So
That's
that
so
that
cool.
was kind of how we went about life.
Love it. And how did you transition to where you are today? What were the different stages?
Well, there was so many things back then. As I was away from as I was away from radio for those 2.5 years, I, I really realized how much I missed it. And I loved boating, but I don't know if I was made for that 7 day a week lifestyle that that they lived. So I went back into the radio business and finished off my career there. So I went back in like 1989 and then worked in radio basically until 2007, 8, 9 when I came to work for Dale Carnegie Training in 2009. But that transition was kind of interesting. One of my favorite stories. I grew up in Michigan, and I knew that the boating company Sea Ray
Mhm.
had uh, started someplace. I don't know if it was Oxford, Michigan, or it was someplace in the state of Michigan where it had started. And that was always, like a pride thing. It was really cool that Sea Ray, this incredibly quality boat,
Mhm.
started here in the state of Michigan. I never knew how they got their name, Sea Ray, until I was at a boat show years later, and my boss introduced me to Cornelius Ray, the gentleman that started Sea Ray, and his initial was C. Ray. His last name was Ray, Ray. And I was
Unexpected.
almost like embarrassed, to sit there and go, okay, Sea Ray, that's where it came from. So, but just one of the many great things I got to do those couple of years I was in the boating business, but meeting Connie Ray was really something special, really something special.
Love it. You would expect it's a name because of like a sea ray, like an actual, the animal.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking it was named after, and then it was you know to really, but to have that realization standing in front of quote unquote the man, it was like, oh, okay, now I get this.
Yeah.
So it was kind of
And
interesting.
how did you end up working with Dale Carnegie?
Well, I went through when I went back into the radio business in '89. I was working for an organization in Michigan that was going through some transitions and challenges. And in 1991, our general manager and the company parted ways. And that radio station, Jose, only had two general managers up to that point. And the station had been on for like years and years. So it was a job that people held for a long time. And when the owner came to me and asked me if I'd be general manager, I was like, okay, I need some help here. So I enrolled in a Dale Carnegie class. I knew I needed to change some of my skill set. I was a pretty good sales manager. I'd had some success, but I knew because of my 2 years in the boating business that my general manager skills needed improvement. So I
Mhm.
enrolled in a Dale Carnegie class, and it was like a 14-week program at that time, and it was like really eye opening. So then I became a client of theirs for about 16 years, where I developed my people through the Dale Carnegie world. And when I moved to Valdosta, Georgia, we purchased some radio stations here right at about 2000, 2001. I met Buddy Faulkner, who was the franchisee out of Jacksonville. And from the first time I met him, which was probably at a Rotary meeting in like 2003, until the day that I agreed to join him and join his company. He asked me to come work for him. He was like, why don't you leave the radio business and come work for Dale Carnegie? Why don't you? And it was like a consistent thing. Every time he had a class that was taking place in Valdosta, he would come to our Rotary Club's luncheon, and he would sit with me, and we would sit there, and he would talk in my ear about Dale Carnegie. And it had been a success to me as a human, as a person, and my team. So it was really intriguing. And finally, in 2009, I said to him, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I want to join you. And I did. And career-wise, I mean, there's a lot of great decisions we make in our lives. That was one of them. That was a great decision I made to join Dale Carnegie.
Love it. Yeah, just aligned with your path, right?
Yeah, very much.
Could you give us a brief description of what the Dale Carnegie course is?
Instead of giving you the technical description, I'll give you the Bob Ganzak version of it to more simplify it.
Perfect.
It's a tool to help you improve your emotional intelligence. When we look at IQ and EQ, your IQ really the needle doesn't move over your lifetime. It pretty much stays the same. Your EQ, or your emotional intelligence, you can have an impact on that. And the Dale Carnegie course gives you the opportunity to have an impact on your emotional intelligence. That's only half of it, though. I mean, maybe even less than half of it, because there's also the stress controlling, the attitude controlling part of the class, so that you can plan your world to be less stressful, to have less worry, to have less fear, to conquer your fears, and not to let your emotions get the best of you at any given time. There's a third part to it also, which is the communication aspect of it, which gives you the opportunity to communicate one-on-one with people, how to become a better listener, how to communicate with small groups of individuals or larger groups of individuals, how to get your message across with impact, clear and concisely. So the Dale Carnegie class is a lot of things rolled up into one. The 8-week version, we call it Skills for Success, and that is a perfect moniker for it. So not the technical standpoint of what the Dale Carnegie class is, yet something that you can take and you can use in your everyday life.
Yeah. I love the 5 drivers of success. I think it encapsulates at least what I've taken from the course.
If you can conquer those 5 things, Jose, or maybe not even conquer might not be the right word. If you can get yourself on a path to success in those areas, self-confidence, that building your self-confidence, probably what we see in sports, in music, in business, in a lot of different categories, we see the people that succeed, like in sports and music. You see the people that make it. There are thousands and hundreds of thousands that don't make it. And some of that is skill, but I think in a lot of cases, it's a lack of confidence. Mm-hmm. So that self-confidence is vitally important. 2 is people skills. How do you get along? How do you interact with other people? 3 is communication skills. What strong communication skills can do to a career is amazing. We watched a debate last night where somebody stumbled in that area, and all of a sudden people are like judging. And that happens in our lives. We walk in to a room. If we don't command the room with the right way of presenting our material to them, the audience is going to judge us in a negative way. It doesn't matter who we are or how good of a person we are or how brilliant we are. if we're unable to communicate our thoughts to individuals, they're going to judge us in a negative way.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's going to hurt your career. And then leadership skills. That's the fourth one. We work real hard on leadership skills. I like to say it's a foundation to leadership. It's building the strong foundation to leadership, because leadership is so complex when you get down the road. I think this gives you a great footing, a great base to be able to start your leadership career from. And then managing your stress and your worry is the fifth driver. And that's really your attitude, what goes on inside your mind and inside your body as you tackle challenges.
Yeah. It's like everything we need in life. in
Yeah,
a
for
single
sure.
quote. What is the difference between people skills and communication skills?
Uh, People skills is strictly how do you interact with somebody else. It's you can be a great communicator, and you can communicate the wrong thing to them. And are you tolerant? Are you patient?
Yeah.
Do people like you when you walk into the room, or are you somebody that has to grow on an individual? Not saying either way is right or wrong. Just, people skills are right there in your emotional intelligence wheelhouse. Do you understand, empathy and sympathy, and do you have compassion for other people? There are a lot of things that roll into those people skills. Whereas communication is, listening, verbalizing thoughts, your body language, the way you look, how you approach people, the tone of your voice, how that makes a difference. The use of your smile, that's communicating to people. So
Yeah.
it's a huge difference in there.
Perfect. Bob, can you tell us a story, some memorable story that you have from your experience working with individuals and companies, with coaching and training?
Through the Dale Carnegie program?
Yeah, or just any memorable story that comes to your mind.
Well, I'm going to tell you, there's, oh my goodness, how many of those? You've been in the class with me. You've taken the class. You've been a graduate assistant a few times. There's a plethora of incredible, remarkable stories. Just the other night, Tuesday night, we were doing our good news at the beginning of class, and people are talking about good news. And one of the gentlemen in the back of the room who works for Comfort Temp in Gainesville spoke up about a huge contract that they landed recently. And he talked about the person that landed the contract, which was a gentleman that was a graduate of our class who had one of those huge turnarounds that we see so often, where he was very introverted, very quiet, very brilliant young man, but he wasn't able to use that brilliance, or he was able to use it. I should not say that. He wasn't able to verbalize his brilliance to other people so that they could see it too. And what he learned in the class and the changes he made, I didn't make them. He made them. He had the right attitude, and he attacked his challenges head on. Well, we were told of the story of how he came up with this idea, how he put it together himself, went out and presented it, made the presentation himself, closed the deal, and absolutely hit a grand slam home run. And the gentleman telling us about it said that it would never have happened if he would have learned the skills in the Dale Carnegie course. So it was such a, like, the way I am, I get emotional about those things when I hear those. And it was just like, it just grabs your heart. It just grabs you by the heart when you know you had a small speck in helping somebody make that type of growth in their career. It's
Yeah.
it's absolutely, and Dale Carnegie Training has been doing that over 10 million people over years, 112 years that Dale Carnegie and Associates and Dale Carnegie Training and the man himself, Dale Carnegie, has been influencing and affecting people in a positive way. That's only one little
Yeah.
spot. That's one speck. Yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah. It sounds corny, but it's like it really is unleashing your potential. Like we have so much potential, and then it gives us the tools to really just put it out there.
And all of us have that potential too. One of the things that we have in our marketing is that sometimes it takes somebody to see a spark inside of you and help you turn that spark into like a fire, a flame that just is going to burn with passion. And we all have that. Everybody has that. And unfortunately, in our lives, things happen, and depression comes in, or failure, or something, whatever it is. And it's sad to see that, because I just know that every human has the potential, and if we could help people in the first 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of their lives to have a better self-confidence, and we could put a program like the Dale Carnegie course in high schools, in grade schools and things, that to me, that would be absolutely awesome.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Bob, and you've taken a lot of Dale Carnegie courses. You've taught a lot of courses as well. You've taken like instructor courses as well. I want to know, based on all of that you've learned, how would you sum it up or give us like top 3 lessons, takeaways from everything that you have learned there?
Number one, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. That is probably one of the most incredible things that I have realized in the last 33 years, is to have a belief in yourself. Whatever the reason you don't. So in the Dale Carnegie, when you become an instructor, you think that kind of going through the Dale Carnegie class takes you outside of your comfort zone. We've heard that. When you become an instructor, it's like they put a forklift on you and just haul you outside of your comfort zone. So to endure that, to make it through that process, you really learn how to believe in yourself. And I guess that's number one thing. Number two thing is, if you don't try, you'll never achieve. If there's something you want to do, you have to try. You have to go and do it. It's just, if you want to be a better public speaker, you can't sit there and say, well, I'm too nervous about that, or I can't do that, or anything else. Do it. Go do it.
Take action.
And the third thing is to appreciate where you are right in this moment right now, to live right now in the immediate moment. I think those 3 things, the believing in yourself, you can't accomplish anything you don't try, and living in the moment, that having a positive effect on other people, like right now, that those 3 things really came to me through, my working with Dale Carnegie Training.
Yeah, that's so cool. Believe in yourself and then take action, take risks, and then appreciate also,
Yeah.
right? Because it's easy to, yeah, those three are just fundamental.
Live right in that moment. Appreciate it that you've got this opportunity right now.
Yeah. All right. So, our audience is people that market and sell boats, people that work in dealerships or brokerages. And so I want to give them value for their leadership.
Mm.
And I know you have a lot of experience and knowledge and skills. So, how would you define leadership?
There's a lot of different definitions of leadership. I try to keep it simple. Individuals that help people accomplish things that they didn't think they could ever accomplish. Uh, you know, Building, creating, and improving teams. That's where leadership comes in.
Mhm.
And I don't think you have to have, a name like Musk or Buffett or any of the people that Bezos, any of the people we look on as great leaders. You don't have to have a last name like that. Some of our best leaders are working at the Dollar General down the street, who are making a positive impact on their communities by, gathering together local individuals and maintaining and helping them grow to earn a living to impact their community. And that's leadership. And I know it's not the Forbes or the Inc. magazine definition of what leadership is. I sometimes think that leadership is more of a verb than a noun. It's something you do and not something you are. And that to me is impactful, and I try to keep reminding myself of that being a leader is an action. It's not a place that we ascend to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very practical way of defining it. And so it's empowering people, having a team, leading a team. What are the main responsibilities and focus areas of a leader?
The communicating with their people and everything else, all of those things are really important. And the listening skills of that. Yet, one of the thought processes I've personally been working on over the last few weeks in the leadership realm is that a leader has to create a process. You have to create a process, then you have to believe in that process, then you have to get people to believe and trust the process, and then commit to the process. So that's 4 steps. And what I mean by that is that you have to have the vision to be able to create a process for your whatever you want your team to accomplish. And then you have got to believe in that. You've got to believe in that process so much that other people see that belief in in the process.
Yeah.
And then the trust in the process is when you put it into action. Okay, now we trust this process enough that we're going to start doing it on a daily basis. And here's how we're going to do it. You teach the people that. Here's the process. We trust in it. Where does the commitment to the process come in? That comes in when you hit the first speed bump, right? When things go negative, when things aren't working. And we're all going to have that in our world. That commitment to the process is you don't give up. You keep applying it. You don't fall back onto old habits. You don't say, well, this is the way we used to do it, so let's go back to that. You don't look for the short-term, solution to a long-term problem, you stick to the commitment. That whole process takes integrity, takes communication, it takes empathy. It takes so many components that go into a leader. But that's really where I see leadership coming in, and a long definition of leadership.
No, I love it. It's setting a vision, a process to get to that vision, and then selling it to your team, and then encouraging them to trust the process and to keep working on it. And what are some of the challenges and obstacles that get in the way?
Well, the biggest is, depending on how many people you have on your team, they've all done things differently over the time and have usually probably had some sort of success with that, doing it quote unquote their way. Yeah. So that is one of the things. So that keeping them trusted and committed in your process or in your vision is a challenge, because things will go negative at times and you're going to have little curves in the road, and you don't want those individuals to jump off. And then, so that's one of those challenges and the obstacles.
You have to deal with their personalities also and life experiences.
Yeah. Generational differences. There's a lot of things that fall into place there. Just like we were talking earlier, it's difficult. I love sports, and it's crazy how many years I've followed certain teams. Yet if you can sit back for a moment and just look at the entire global world of sports, not from the actual sport itself, but from the people who participate in it. Mm-hmm. We've gone through changes generationally in our life. And I posed a question the other day to a gentleman that speaks very fluently and intelligently on sports. I wonder how much Generation Z is playing into sports world. We work in business. You're a Gen Z yourself. The things we hear from people, and I hate it, is words like resiliency, reliability, accountability. They throw those things out as if they're darts, and that's not true. Yet when we look in sports, like college sports, everybody participating is Gen Z. Most of the people coaching them, or a good portion of the people coaching them, are either Gen X, or baby boomers.
Yeah.
How does that play out? So if you are able to find old school mentality of those outliers from the generation, can you influence a team that way? So there's a lot of research to be done and a lot of discussion. I would love to find a podcast, of individuals that were, skilled and schooled in that area, just to ask some questions.
Yeah.
I would love to ask some questions. But
how do you think we can reconcile all those differences in personalities and generations and
acceptance, understanding? Go to principle 17, try to see things honestly from the other person's point of view. Just understand that, the path I took to get to where I am today, starting in 1955 to 2024, nobody else is going to take that path. I mean, the kids being born today are going to start in 2024. And, in 2064, they'll be 40 years old and, running companies and doing a lot of other things, and so their whole world is going to be different than my whole world. But we have to be able to see things from the other person's point of view and try to understand it. And that's how I think we move forward. Don't be critical. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain about somebody else. Try to understand them. Try to work alongside them, shoulder to shoulder, because you have traits too that they don't understand and that they might not like.
Mm-hmm.
And to go back and forth. That to me is how we move forward with business, with the world.
Yeah.
Everybody needs it seems like in America, and you're from Venezuela, so maybe you see this as you come here, but everybody needs an immediate solution. And we don't have to agree today. We don't have to agree at any time. What we need to do is be able to work together and take the best from your ideas and thoughts and processes and the best from my ideas, thoughts, and processes. And how can we work together and make it work together? But I mean, go on X and just read people calling each other just names because you don't agree on something either athletically or politically or religiously or whatever reason, and immediately it's like, let's go to war, let's fight this out. What are you guys doing? We can have a difference of opinion, and I'm not going to discourage you from thinking the way you do. And likewise, I'm going to defend somebody that tries to discourage me the way that I think.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I remember you gave me an analogy of a garden and having like a team represented by all the different plants and flowers, and then each of them requires a different treatment, different food. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, it's just that you can't treat everybody the exact same way because the plant food you're feeding one might be killing the other.
Yeah.
So you have to understand what that plant needs, and then you have to give them those type of nutrients in order to help them grow. What we try to do too often is so I don't want to have to think that much, so I'll only plant these,
Yeah.
And we do that with our friends and people we hire. I don't understand that age group, or I don't understand that, political idea or ideology or what. So we don't hire them or we don't interact with them. We only find people that think like we do, act like we do, and talk like we do. And so that's the entire, world that we live in. It's not, you can have a beautiful garden if you just take the time and understand what each plant needs. And also you have to weed that garden too, because there are things that creep into that. There are things that creep into friendships. There are things that creep into families, that can strangle and kill that team or that garden or whatever. And so you have to, consistently cultivate it and get the weeds out and address the problems early before they become huge. So another analogy. So
I love that one. I love that analogy. And then leaders can also have different styles and types, right? So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Leadership styles. I struggle with that. I really do.
I really don't understand it. So that's why I'm asking also.
And here's why I struggle with that. I don't know if we're teaching people going into leadership that there are X amount of leadership styles. Which one do you want to be? I struggle with that. Or are we looking at it in the rear view mirror saying, okay, here's your leadership career. What style were you? So that in itself, I kind of struggle with, because when I talk to people about leadership, the first thing I tell them is be you. Be you. When you start trying to be somebody else, like if you're a quiet, strong individual with introvert tendencies, I don't want you to try to be the bombastic, loud, rah, rah, rah leader, because you're going to come off as phony to a lot of individuals. Can you develop some of those skills so that you can, dip your toe into that area? Yeah, that's important, to do that. But be you, be who you are, and develop your leadership skills within your style. Now, we all can improve some areas, become better listeners. If we're a good listener now, we can become a better listener. Asking questions, that's a skill you can learn. How much I love Principle 25, ask questions instead of giving direct orders. I absolutely love that principle because I see it as a parent. I see it as a leader, a manager, a supervisor, or whatever, just a great way to help people grow. And it's not drilling somebody. It's just sitting at the kitchen table with your kids having dinner, something we don't do anymore. I mean, that's gone away from our society. When I was a child, we ate every meal as a family, breakfast, lunch, dinner, we ate as a family. And I tried to keep that going with when my kids were young. And nowadays, though, I talk to other people, how often do you have dinner with your family? Once or twice a month, once a week. When you have that opportunity to sit down with 5, 6, 7, 8, 4, 3-year-olds, ask them questions. You're not drilling them. You're just asking them a casual question, and then listen to the answer, not to judge the answer, but to learn how to understand where this person is going or where they're from. And we do that in leadership and parenting and coaching. Take us a long ways. It's a big, huge help.
So every leader has their own style, and ideally, we have to just be ourselves. And
yeah, it's a lot more complicated than that. From a base standpoint, yes. I wouldn't say, I want to be a charismatic leader if I'm not a charismatic person. I've had bosses who were, quiet, humble. I shared a gentleman that I never worked for. I competed against him, Jim Robertson, in the radio business. He was a great leader. He was humble, quiet, very thoughtful, trustworthy. Wasn't one of those people that, would jump up on a table and start, leading cheers. And he just got named to the Country Radio Broadcasters Hall of Fame in Nashville. Well deserved. And it was all about his leadership over many, 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 many years. And so if Jim would have tried to have been,
another person.
We had another gentleman that was in Ocala, Florida, that was a general manager of another radio station. It was like just this loud, sarcastic, always had a one-liner for everybody. It would have worked. But it worked for that other guy. It worked for him because he surrounded himself with people that appreciated that style.
Yeah.
So,
are there any universal traits or habits that all great leaders must have?
Yeah, I think so. Communication skills, both the listening. We need to have those. Empathy, trust, integrity, passion for what you do. Those things all play into that.
What about enthusiasm? You're a big proponent.
A little known secret of success, right? Enthusiasm is a huge part of that, but again, enthusiasm looks different to everybody else. I had another friend who worked in the banking industry for years and years and years, never ever missed a day of work. And Bob would go into the bank on Saturdays and Sundays religiously, just to get work done at his desk. I don't think you'd ever look at Bob and say, in his 3-piece suit or later in his 2-piece suit and say, yeah, he's an enthusiastic person. Yet his enthusiasm showed by the fact that he, the time he got to work every day, how many hours he worked, how many days he worked, his commitment to that. That's enthusiasm, Yeah. So, that's a good word.
Yeah. What about being a leader? How do you know what person to bring to your team? What do you look for when interviewing?
Oh, as you and I have talked a lot about interviewing, and I have a unconventional way of doing that, which I'm happy to say some other companies that I've shared it with are adopting my philosophy. There's 4 things I look at when I'm interviewing somebody. And so I take 4 quadrants. And in the upper left-hand quadrant is skill level. Can they do the job that they're being hired to do? Do they have the skill level to do the job? That's the first thing you have to look at. And if I'm hiring somebody to be a performance consultant for Dale Carnegie or to potentially be an instructor, I've got to look at, do they have the skill level for that? When I was in radio, do they have the skill level to do the job that I'm bringing them in to do? Now, if they don't, Jose, it doesn't mean they have no opportunity to work in the company, because then I look at the other 3 areas also. The next one, as you move across, is what is their relationship with themselves? Where's their confidence level? How do they feel about themselves? Are they an individual that are going to push themselves out there and try to improve? Or are they satisfied where they are and they're happy to be who they are? I want to find out that. And I do that through asking questions. The third area, as you drop down into the lower right-hand corner, is how do they get along? How are they going to fit into my team? How are they going to fit into my culture? How are they going to get along with the other people within my organization, my clients, my vendors, the individuals that I interact with? What is their weight going to be? Are they going to, draw energy away from my team, or are they going to add energy to my team? How are they going to interact? And then the fourth area is, what is their vision, passion, and purpose? What do they really want in their career? And I wait until I've gone through all 3 of the other areas, because that's one of the emotional things. If we see somebody aligns with our vision, we may skip over all three of those first points just to bring them in because, oh, they're just like me. Well, no, they're not.
And
They don't
bias
have the
also.
same skill level you do. They don't have the confidence level you do, and they're antagonistic to people around them. But because they have a similar dream, you're going to bring them in. No, that's wrong. So those are the 4 areas that I look at, and it also helps me train them when they come on board, Jose. It lets me know, do I need to educate them? Do I need to help them get more skill? Do I need to send them to a Dale Carnegie class to learn the confidence or the people skills that they need? And and then maybe I find them a mentor that helps them solidify their vision, their passion, and their purpose if that is needed. But long story, but that's how I bring people into the team. And I feel after I go through that process that the individuals that join us probably are more aligned with what our company needs. I'm not looking for me too, just like me, or yes sirs, or anybody that just want to agree with what Bob has to say or with what Jose has to say or Dale Carnegie Training has to say. That's not what I'm saying here. I want to find individuals who are going to fit into our culture or enhance our culture.
Yeah. I really love your approaches and your philosophy because it's practical, it's simple, it's actionable, and it's really thorough. Like it makes a difference. And sometimes today we want to make things complex and long and difficult. And your approach is always super simple, not easy sometimes. Like it could be uncomfortable, but it is practical. It is simple, and I really love how you approach leadership and communications, and just being a great leader.
Thank you, Jose. I appreciate that. The simplicity of it. When I look at onboarding, I mean, I look at companies and organizations that I work with, and I ask them, let me see your onboarding process. And they're so well thought out. And members of SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Managers, they've done such an incredible job developing the hiring process over the years. Yet still, I look at some of these onboarding processes, ours with Dale Carnegie, and they are so complex. And half of them are written. Half of the onboarding process seems to be written by human resource managers, and half of it seems to be written by attorneys. And they are so long and so drawn out and so complex, 40, 50, 60 pages long. When I'm dealing with somebody, I want to help them. A lot of people that we hire are early in their careers. They don't have a long history of, if you put yourself in their shoes, if you see things from their point of view, honestly and sincerely, they're scared to death. This is my first job interview. And I remember we had a program director, Johnny Austin. His real name is John Mertz. One of my dear friends. Haven't seen him in many, many years, but if we had an opportunity, we'd sit down and break bread tomorrow. One of those type of individuals. If I needed him or he needed me, we'd be there for each other. That type of individual. Mm-hmm. But John used to tell me, he said, because I was local sales manager and he was a program director of this hugely successful radio station in Central Michigan, in Lansing, Michigan. And he would tell me, he said, Bob, remember, we're selling the dream. We're selling a dream. And And that's these people coming out of Michigan State University that wanted to work in radio, that had gone through the program in college. This was their set of eyeballs on the radio industry. And what type of impact were we going to have on these individuals? And we wanted it to be positive. If they worked for us or if they didn't work for us, we wanted them to love the industry and to get involved in it. And I will give 100% of the credit to John to keeping that in my mind all the time, was that, we're selling the stream. And both of us, he and I, our company, we interviewed people all of the time. We were constantly cultivating, resources to interview people, even if we had no openings. We were interviewing people all the time, which was a great learning experience for me, which was awesome.
Yeah. Well, Bob, thank you so much. You've given us a lot of practical information, value on how to be a great leader, how to build a team, how to work within a team also. And I know all of this is super valuable for our audience, and I'm really grateful for your time and all your input today.
Thank you. And I say to your clients and your boat dealers and the manufacturers, you do an incredible job for the fun that families and people have. And no matter what obstacles you have to tackle, grab those challenges and get past them, because boat dealers do a great things for family fun, and that's really important. Thank you, Jose.